thank you, everyone, to be here. I'm sorry I cannot speak in your wonderful language, but it's all the same a pleasure to be here in this wonderful place, in the right place where to speak about plant. Okay, let's start immediately because we have not too much time, and I will show you now four slides in a very fast sequence. This one. This one, oops, sorry, and the last one. Well, this is it's a very easy psychological test we did some years ago. To the university student, we asked this university student to tell us what they saw in the slides, and the 96% of the people interviewed tell us that they saw just deers, elks, frogs, and for the last slide, 98% of the people will tell you that there is an adult man and a young girl. Well, all these slides have in common the fact that 80% of the slides is made by plant, but our brain is filtering out all this stuff about plant. And it's a well-known feature of our brain. It's called the plant blindness. It's the inability to see or notice the plants in the environment. It's a kind of tool that protect our brain to be overloaded with a lot of information about this unuseful green stuff. We evolved in a forest, and it was much more important for us to be aware of animals, of other humans, and not to be overloaded with all this information about green. Well, this was a nice tool at the beginning of our evolution, but today it's a problem. Today, this plant blindness prevents us, for example, to know this data. This is the unbelievable data. 99.7% of the biomass of the planet is made by plants. So everything that I would say that the life of the planet, it's a green life. All the animals, all together, human included, is just 0.3%. So it's unbelievable that we don't know actually how these plants works, and we are all the time underestimating their amazing abilities. Well, let's have a look at the beginning how a plant is made. A plant is a sessile organism. Sessile means that it cannot move. The plants cannot move from one place to the other, but they can move a lot. Sorry, I don't know what's happened. And the second point is that plants have no organs. This is an unbelievable difference with the animals. So I mean, animals concentrate specific functions inside specific organs. So we have eyes to see, we have lung for breathing, we have the stomach to digest, and so on. But the plants evolved not to have any organs, because having an organ is too dangerous for plants that have to be predated, to be eaten by animals. So you can imagine that it's not a single insect just eating a little bit of your brain would be enough to kill you, no? So this is why the plants have no organs. But having no organs doesn't mean that they have no function. This is an important point. In other words, plants are able to see without eyes, they are able to hear without hearing, they are able to taste and to smell and to breathe without the organs, and they are also able to make calculation, memorize, learning without brain. Now the point about plant is that they cannot move, but actually they move a lot. There are passive movement in plants, like in this pine cone, the opening and the closing of a pine cone that has been used for the production of new passive materials, or or this very nice Erodium sicutarium. This is a seeds that you can see just with change in the humidity, it's turning, and use this ability to enter in the soil. And so it's like a spermatozoa. It works very well, and you can see that at the end, some of them are also able to enter in the soil. Now, what is amazing about that is that they do this without using any energy. So they have no muscles. Look, it was able to enter. So they use no energy, they have no muscles, and it's just the way the material is made that is amazing, that make possible these wonderful movements. Of course, there are active movements. Some of them are very fast, like in the case of the Venus flytrap. Dionea is a carnivorous plant. We know that it's a very fast movement. Many of them can be exhibited just by making a fast, the time-lapse, the so-called time-lapse technique. And so we can see this graceful movement, like in this case. This is a young bean. It's just 3 hours of time. It's not a week. So the plants move a lot, and we can see here this growing of sunflowers, no? That they grow all together, and even this growing together is important because it's an important moment of their social life. So they are really learning how to stay together during this first phase of their life. And now I would like to put our argumentation a little bit further. Can we tell that plants are conscious organisms? So because I'm pretty sure that they are intelligent, I will not discuss with you about that. Plants are intelligent, and they are able to solve problems, and this is my preferred definition of intelligence. Now the point is, are plants conscious? Consciousness is are plants aware of their position in the environment? So it's a problem to find the right definition about consciousness. It's normally defined by removing something. But Mikio Kaku, it's a quite famous physicist. And he wrote recently this book, The Future of Mind. And as a physicist, he gave a definition of consciousness that it's quite understandable. And
consciousness is the number of feedback loops required to create a model of your position in space with relationship to other organisms, and finally in relationship to time.
So the consciousness is just your ability to build a model of yourself in relation to the space, to the other organism, and to the time. Are plants able to do that? Okay, let's have a look. First point.
So think of the consciousness of a thermostat. I believe that even a lowly thermostat has one unit of consciousness. That is, it senses the temperature around it. And then we have a flower. A flower has maybe 10 units of consciousness. It has to understand the temperature, the weather, humidity, where gravity is pointing.
Well, so for Mikio Kaku, the sensing, it's the first level of consciousness. So plants are unbelievably more sensitive than animals. A single plant is able to detect at least 20 different chemical and physical parameters all the times. Among them, there are all our common sense, let's say, but also something a little bit strange as electrical gradient, chemical gradient, magnetic fields, and or heavy metals, and so on, pathogens. So we know that plants, for example, are very sensitive to gravity, and as every living organism on the earth, and we can see here a maze growing according to gravity. But it's less well now that plants are also able to sense vibrations. And so we can see here how the roots of the plants grow toward the source of sound. So they are able to sense the sound, and they are able to grow, and to grow toward the source of the sound. And also they are able to produce a sound. This is this kind of click. It's a very amplified sounds of a growing roots. So when the roots during few this is just in real time, so it's few seconds. A growing roots is producing specific sounds that are probably used by the other root apex to have information about the position of the roots in the soil. Well, let's go on to the second point. To the second point, to the first level of consciousness, space.
And then finally we go to the reptilian brain, which I call level 1 consciousness. And reptiles basically have a very good understanding of their position in space, especially because they have to lunge out and grab prey.
Okay, so reptiles are very well aware of the space. It's the same for the plants. Let's have a look. This is a cuscuta plant. Cuscuta plant is a parasitic plant that need to find a host in a very short time before dying. And you can see how this plant is immediately directing toward the tomato plant and find it and parasitizing the tomato plant. Well, this is quite trivial. It's just a chemical driving the information to the plant. It's a volatile. But look at this case. This is the same plant that have to take a decision because it's in the middle between wheat and tomato. And all the time is choosing tomato because tomato is much easier to parasitize. But if there is no tomato, even wheat can work. Okay, and this is something simple. Let's have to see something a little bit more curious. This is a bin in my lab, and this is a support, and you can see that how is moving for reaching the support. So I mean, this plant know exactly where the support is, where the pole is, and is trying to do all its best for reaching. I don't know if you can see, but the apex of the shoots already made a kind of hook in the right position, even if the plants didn't touch until now the support. And you can see also the movement. It's a wonderful movement. It's just, even in this case, just passive, just based on the osmotic actuator. Look at the hook in the apex, and almost. Another try, and it's not enough. And you can almost feel, no, the effort, and look at the leaves now that they reach the support. How is much quiet, calm. Anyway, so we know that the bean is aware of the pole. Okay, there is also something more impressive, because look, in this case I am putting a pole among two beans. So there is the sensing phase. They know that there is a pole. They start to compete. And look, when the first one is winning, the winner, the other one change direction. So this is you can repeat this experiment 100 times, and 100 times you will get the same result. So this means that the second plant is not just aware of the support, is also aware of another organism, of another plants, and is aware of what the other plant is able to do. Okay? Great. social life. The
Then we
social-
have level 2 consciousness, the monkey consciousness, the consciousness of emotions, social hierarchies. Where are we in relationship to the tribe?
Okay, I don't want to spend too much time because the social life of the plant is very well known. And plants are social organisms at any level of their evolution from Chlamydomonas. This is a single algae, unicellular algae that shows swarm behavior, so a kind of social movement like the one of the ants, and to these swinging shoots. Look how they oscillate all together. Okay, this seems something very easy to do, but it's not easy at all. You need to be in synchrony with your neighbor to do this, and so you need to be well aware of what the movement of your neighboring are. And keen recognition, it's something unbelievably interesting. So we know today that that plants have different behavior according to the degree of relativeness of the other plants. So normally, for example, beans, the very common bean, are cooperating when they are in the same pot, that they are related. But when the two plants are unrelated, they are normally competing. And in a wood, it's a huge networks of plants interacting each other. For example, we know that this is a graph showing that a single tree is linked to 47 different trees, and they use this network for sharing information, for sharing even food and water, nutrients and water. Well, there is much more with plants. We have not too much time to show all the wonderful thing about plants. Plants, for example, are able to memorize. They are able to memorize and to learn. We demonstrate just a few months ago that it's possible to teach a mimosa-sensitive plant not to close anymore when there is a non-dangerous stimulus. And this sensitive plant is able to maintain the information for 40 days. So I mean, the memory lasts at least 40 days. That it's a lot. On the average, the memory in insect is just 24 hours. Even for me, 40 days, it's a lot. And so it's amazing to see that plants are able to maintain information so long. And just a last thing. So from my point of view, intelligence and consciousness are real biological phenomenon. So they can be studied as real. They need to be studied as real biological phenomenon. And it's something like reproduction. I mean, there is reproduction, it's completely different in a bacteria, in fungi, and the humans, okay? But there is a common background that means that phenomenon is reproduction. Is the same for intelligence. It's different, but it's always the way the same. Thank you very much.